In every functioning democracy, law enforcement agencies must operate independently, based on facts and the rule of law, not political convenience. In this Senate hearing, the conversation goes to the heart of what a justice system should and should not be. Senator Sheldon Whitehouse questioned Pam Bondi, former Florida Attorney General, about the alarming idea of an enemies list being used in the Department of Justice or the FBI. This isn't just a hypothetical. An enemies list is a direct threat to impartial law enforcement because it replaces merit and evidence with loyalty tests and personal vendettas.
Ms. Bondi, you were a courtroom prosecutor for a great many years. As a courtroom prosecutor, did you ever have an enemies list?
No, Senator.
And you went on to be Florida's Attorney General. As Florida's Attorney General, did you ever have an enemies list?
No, Senator.
As Florida's Attorney General, you were responsible for hiring into the Florida Department of Attorney General, correct?
Senator, the Attorney General's office in Florida is the third largest in the state, approximately 1,400 employees and approximately 400 lawyers. Only California and Texas are our bigger offices.
And you were responsible
yes.
for hiring into that office while you were Attorney General?
Yes.
Would you have hired someone into the Florida Attorney General's office who you knew had an enemies list?
Senator, to cut to the chase, you're clearly talking about Kash Patel. I don't believe he has an enemies list. He made a quote on TV, which I have not heard. I saw your sign, or Senator Durbin's sign, about Kash. But I know that Kash Patel has had 60 jury trials as a public defender, as a prosecutor. He has great experience in the Intel Department, Department of Defense. I have known Kash, and I believe that Kash is the right person at this time for this job. You'll have the ability to question Mr. Patel.
And I'm questioning you right now
do.
about whether you will enforce an enemies list that he announced publicly on television.
Oh, Senator, I'm sorry. There will never be an enemies list within the Department of Justice.
Thank you. The FBI's, what is the FBI's role in national security and counterterrorism, and how important is that role?
You know, Senator, I believe now more than ever, counterterrorism is so important and vital in our country. We are facing such incredible threats here and abroad. I'm sure many of you saw former FBI Director Wray's interview on 60 Minutes. He talked about the threats that, frankly, again, I don't have my security clearance, but the threats facing us, Senator, from China right now that are so great, the sleeper cells within our country.
Given that importance, is it responsible to call for shutting down the FBI's counterterrorism and national security work? And will you, as Attorney General, impede or shut down the FBI's counterterrorism and national security work?
Senator,
2 questions.
Senator, I believe that national security is vital right now for our country on so many fronts. I could continue to discuss many others.
And the FBI's role in that?
And the FBI plays a vital role in counterterrorism
which you
throughout
will
our
or will
world.
not shut down?
I will look at each agency. I have no intention of shutting anything down right now, Senator. I am not in that office yet, and if confirmed, I will look at each individual agency and how it should be managed, but counterterrorism right now in our world is vital.
You have said that Department of Justice prosecutors will be prosecuted in the Trump administration. What Department of Justice prosecutors will be prosecuted and why?
I said that on TV. I said prosecutors will be prosecuted, to finish the quote, if bad. Investigators will be investigated. You know, we all take an oath, Senator, to uphold the law. None of us are above the law. Let me give you a really good example of a bad lawyer within the Justice Department, a guy named Klein Smith, who altered a FISA warrant, one of the most important things we can do in this country. So will everyone be held to an equal, fair system of justice if I am the next Attorney General? Absolutely. And no one is above the law.
Bondi's clear rejection of the idea was important. She confirmed unequivocally that there will never be an enemies list under her watch, and emphasized that her experience hiring thousands of attorneys and staff in Florida was guided by qualifications and fairness, not political vendettas. The broader point goes beyond one individual. Whitehouse highlighted why this discussion matters. The FBI and the Justice Department hold extraordinary powers, from counterterrorism to criminal investigations to national security. Bondi reinforced that these powers must never be weaponized for political purposes.
Under what circumstances will you prosecute journalists for what they write?
I believe in the freedom of speech. Only if anyone commits a crime. It's pretty basic, Senator, with anything, with any victim. And this goes back to my entire career for 18 years as a prosecutor and then 8 years as Florida's Attorney General. You find the facts of the case, you apply the law in good faith, and you treat everyone fairly.
And it would not be appropriate for a prosecutor to start with a name and look for a crime. It's a prosecutor's job to start with a crime and look for a name, correct?
Senator, I think that is the whole problem with the weaponization that we have seen the last 4 years and what's been happening to Donald Trump. They targeted Donald Trump. They went after him, actually starting back in 2016. They targeted his campaign. They have launched countless investigations against him. That will not be the case if I am Attorney General. I will not politicize that office. I will not target people simply because of their political affiliation. Justice will be administered even-handedly throughout this country. Senator, we've got to bring this country back together. We've got to move forward, or we're going to lose our country.
Yeah, I think the concern is that weaponization of the Justice Department may well occur under your tenure. And we want to make sure that that's not the case, that you remain independent, that you remain able to and willing to tell the president no when that's necessary to protect the Constitution and the integrity of the department. So that's where I'm asking these questions. We talked in the meeting about the contacts policy that has prevailed really since Senator Hatch sat in that chair and demanded it of the Clinton Justice Department through all the administration since then, with the exception of a brief period under Attorney General Gonzalez, which he corrected and which did not end well for him. There has been a contacts policy that limits contacts between the White House and the Department of Justice to a very few senior officials on each side. In your role as Attorney General, if you are confirmed, will you maintain, defend, and enforce that longstanding contacts policy?
Senator, yes, I will meet with White House counsel, and I will meet with the appropriate officials and follow the contacts policy.
My time has expired. Thank you, Ms. Bondi.
When she stressed the importance of counterterrorism, it wasn't lip service. It was a reminder that threats exist both at home and abroad, from extremist sleeper cells to foreign interference. The FBI's role in protecting Americans is not just procedural, it is existential. If the leadership prioritizes politics over duty, the entire country is at risk. Another critical part of the hearing focused on prosecutorial independence. Bondi was asked whether prosecutors in the Justice Department could be targeted or prosecuted based on political loyalty. She answered with a fundamental principle of law. Prosecutors start with the crime, not the name. This is how justice maintains credibility. You don't go looking for crimes to punish a political rival, and you don't let loyalty override evidence. That simple principle, start with the crime, not the name, is a cornerstone of a fair justice system. It's also a direct rebuttal to concerns that political favoritism could infect the Department of Justice under future leadership. Bondi's emphasis on impartiality also extended to free speech. She made it clear that journalists, like all citizens, are protected under the law unless they commit crimes. This distinction is essential because in past years, there have been repeated concerns about attempts to punish media outlets for reporting critically on political leaders. In a democracy, a Justice Department that is willing to act as a political enforcer is a danger to everyone, not just opponents of the administration in power. The hearing also touched on one of the most critical procedural safeguards, the contacts policy between the White House and the Justice Department. This policy has existed for decades to prevent undue influence from the executive branch over independent investigations. Bondi confirmed that she intends to maintain, defend, and enforce this policy, recognizing its role in keeping investigations fair and insulating law enforcement from political pressure. Without it, every DOJ investigation risks being interpreted as politically motivated, undermining public trust and the rule of law. What this hearing teaches us as citizens is more than who said what. It's a vivid lesson in why institutional independence matters, why accountability matters, and why the norms that protect justice are not optional. When a nominee or potential leader publicly entertains ideas like enemies lists or politicized prosecutions, oversight is not just appropriate, it is essential. The role of senators and the press isn't to settle partisan scores. It is to ensure that the country's most powerful law enforcement agencies operate according to principles, not personal loyalty. For viewers, the takeaway is actionable. First, demand accountability. Contact your senators and ask whether nominees are committed to impartiality and to the rule of law. Second, educate yourself on policies like the White House Justice Department contacts policy, because procedural safeguards often matter more than the headlines. Third, support journalism and civic organizations that monitor government power. Our democracy relies on citizens who understand not only the risks, but the mechanisms that protect against abuse. This hearing may feel like political theater, but it's actually a blueprint for understanding how power works in Washington and how citizens can push back when loyalty threatens law. Fairness, independence, and accountability are not abstract concepts. They are what protect every American from the misuse of extraordinary government power. Keeping institutions like the DOJ and the FBI impartial is not a partisan choice. It's a constitutional duty, and it requires our attention and our action.